Alright guys, so we are going to look at the warm-ups, and I want to show you something that you can do on your graphing calculator. So on the first problem, we were trying to solve this equation for x. Here's the quadratic formula, and this is what we're supposed to use. So in this equation, what was a? And b was 8, and c was 20. So when we go to solve this, we're going to plug it into our formula. It's going to go -8 plus or minus the square root of b squared is 64 minus 4 times 1 times 20 all over 2 times a. That's our setup. I don't want to go through the whole problem, but if I'm going to have 64 minus 80, am I going to have a positive or negative number under the radical? So this value under the radical, it has a name for it. Does anyone remember the name? Discriminant, right. If that discriminant, which is the value under the radical, not after you take the square root, it's the value under the radical. In this case, the discriminant would be -16. Because that discriminant is negative, that means we're going to have two imaginary solutions. Now, I could go ahead and I could finish the problem, but I want to show you what you can do if you have the quadratic formula on your calculator. You guys do not have this yet, but I want to show you what it will do. If I go to Program and I have the quadratic formula, I'm going to push Enter. My A value is 1, B is 8, C is 20. When I push Enter, it's going to tell me that I have non-real answers. That's helpful, but I would like to know what those non-real answers are. If I quit and I go to my mode, and now I set up my mode down here so that it will accept real or imaginary. Can you guys see that? I'm under my mode. If I change this to A plus BI, it's now going to figure out what those imaginary solutions are. So I'm going to change my mode, and you can always keep it like this. It's just that the default on the calculators is real. So watch. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to my program. I'm going to execute my program. I do my one. Oops, sorry. What the heck? Okay. So I go back to my program. I execute it. Enter. My A value is 1. My B value is 8. And my C value is 20. And look what it tells me. The answers are -4 plus 2i and -4 minus 2i. Did you guys get that right? Okay. Now, it'll also do the second problem for us. On the second problem, what do we have to get a set equal to first? We have to get a set equal to 0 first before we can start. So if I set this up, it would have been -b plus or minus the square root of -15 squared is 225 minus 4 times 18 times 2 is 144 all over 2a. 225 minus 144 is 81. So in this case our discriminant is going to be 81. It's positive. That means we're going to have two real solutions. Now, instead of going any further, I'm going to do it on my program. So I'm going to quit, clear everything out. I go to Program. I want to execute it. I push Enter. A is 18, B is -15, C is 2. There are the two solutions. Did you guys get 2/3 and 1/6? Okay, and if you weren't sure if you got those equivalent, you just do 2/3, that matches, 1/6, that matches. So we got it right. So, how are you guys going to put this in? Well, here's the way the program looks, and you're going to have to type it in yourself. I first want to just show you what it looks like. I'm going to go to Program, and I'm going to go over to Edit. This is the way the program looks when it's finished. So this is what we have to type in, is all of this. And I'm going to show you how to do that on your calculator. So, turn your calculator on, go to Program, Program's right there, go over here to New, because we're going to create a new program. Okay, everybody hit Enter. What was the name of the program? quad. You can call it quad form if you want. You just have to type in more letters. You can see these letters here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Those are the ones you're using, and this A is blinking. That means I can put in letters. So I'm going to have Q, then I'm going to put in U, A, D. If you want to call it quad form, go ahead and put in F, O, R, M. So I'm calling mine the quadratic formula, quad form. I'm going to go ahead and push enter. Raise your hand if you need more time to put that in. Okay, go ahead and put it in. You can also just call it quad. All right. If you want to do this later, you can just pause this video and watch the video on your own if you get behind. So now my next thing I have to do is put in prompt. Prompt means that the calculator is going to ask the person to put in A, B, and C. To find prompt, I'm going to have to go under program. So go to program. Then you're going to go to input, output, I/O, arrow to the right to get to I/O. Do you guys see prompt? So go down to prompt and push enter. We have to prompt them to put in A, B, and C. You can see that this is not blinking with an A, so I have to go to alpha. Alpha is right here, this green button. Now it's blinking with an A. So I want to tell them to put in A. Then I need the comma. Do you guys see the comma right here by the parenthesis? Push comma. Okay, is it blinking with the A? No, so I have to push alpha. Then go to B. Then push your comma. And then go back to alpha and put in C. That's the way that second step should look. So that prompt means that the calculator is going to ask them to put in A, then B, then C. Alright, enter. Now we have to tell the calculator how to compute the quadratic formula. So this is the way I have to type it in. So I have to put in my beginning parenthesis. Is this a subtraction symbol or a negative symbol? Negative. Make sure you use negative. I have to go to alpha, B, plus the square root of alpha, B squared minus 4, alpha A, alpha C. Now, I want it to put in, all of that needs to be under the radical, so I have to close the parentheses. I want all of that numerator to get divided by 2a, so I need to close the parentheses now. So all of that needs to get divided by parentheses 2a. That's the first part of the quadratic formula. Yep.
Why was the, oh, never mind.
Now, yep. Now the next thing I have to do is I have to tell it where to store it. I can't use an A, I can't use a B, I can't use a C. So here I chose to store it in for D and E. Fourth period wanted to store it into X and Y. It doesn't matter whatever letter you want to use. So I'm going to say store it. Do you see the store button? Down here by the number 1, STO. Store it. Let's just go with D, it's closer. So alpha D. So that means that it's going to store that answer for D. Okay? Now, the calculator unfortunately has no copy-paste. That would be such a nice thing to have. If you ever work for TI, tell them that teachers would love to have a copy-paste feature. But here's what we go. We're now going to have to put in negative b minus that. So do exactly what you just did, but make it subtraction now. Okay, I'll give you a minute to get that set up. Some mistakes people make, you have to use a negative and then you have to use subtraction. Make sure you close the parentheses. Yes? I'm going to get to that in just a second. The stored actually is down here right next to the number 1. You push STO for store. Alright guys, so now we're going to want to store this. So store it. Let's store it in for E. Push alpha, E, and now we have it stored. At this point, all the calculator is going to do is it's going to calculate D and E, but it's not going to show us the answers. So if you look at the last step on this program, we wanted to display the answers. So to get to display, make sure you're on the next line. Push enter. Now we're going to go to program. Where do you think display would be? Input, output. Do you see it? Display. And what is it that we wanted to display? D and E. So I push alpha D, comma, alpha E. Enter. Now, don't hit another button. If you hit clear, you're going to clear out your program. You need to quit at this point. So do second mode to quit. Alright, so now let's test your program. So now go to program, and you want to execute it, so push enter. And now push enter one more time, and now it's going to ask you for A, B, and C. See if yours will work for the first one. Now, why am I getting this error message? I didn't change that mode on this one. Okay, how many peoples are working? Raise your hand if you have a working program. Alright, about 80%. If your program is not working, guys, you can go back to program, go over to edit, push enter, and you can edit it. You probably just have one little thing typed in wrong. You don't have to redo the whole thing. If you want, you can come up here and I'll help you individually, or you can go back and you can watch the video and try it in the comfort of your home where you're not under pressure to keep up. Alright?